Alright, so today we're just going to go through the setup for the preflop solves, and then also take a look at some post-flop work. So if you got early access, or later on, if after the book launch, you'll get access to all of these. Basically, what you need to do is just download this file. Right, so you just download the whole thing, and it'll zip it and then download it. In the meantime, to set up the Monka solver, basically what you need to do is just go to just Google MonkaView or whatever, and you need to download two things. So you download MonkaViewer, right? And you should also download Monka Solver free. It just makes it a bit easier to use. So basically, once you've got Monka Solver free, that's a certain folder with all these subfolders in it. You put MonkaViewer free. You put MonkaViewer into the Monka Solver free folder. So you've got monkaviewer.exe in the same folder as monkasolverfree.exe. And basically what that allows you to do is now monkaviewer.exe can view the ranges. Okay. So the correct path for the ranges, in order for MonkaViewer to see the ranges, is it's ranges hold_m, so hold 'em, and then it'll be 6-way, 3-way, or whatever named folder that we want. Let's see if the so it's still zipping, but basically once you have downloaded that, let's do it this way. Once you download that, you put the 3-way folder into here. So you go from the MonkaViewer free, you go to ranges, hold 'em, you put it in here, and put the unzipped 3-way folder here. And then inside you need to unzip all of these subfolders. Okay, and then you just click inside and make sure that it's just RNG folders. If it's say like a copy of the Zenith ones, you just have to move everything up a level, right? And so when we go back into this folder, Monka Solver free, the MonkaViewer can see the ranges inside this ranges folder. Another useful thing is that here you can add a settings.txt, where basically you can set your own colors for your own color scheme. This is the one I'm using right now. I'll put up the settings.txt inside the early access folder. I don't need that anymore. Just so that you guys can use the same color scheme that I'm using. So I'll do that now. And basically that settings.txt just gives you the colors. Alright, so let's just have a look at some of the ranges. So if you haven't used MonkaViewer before, you'll have to make an account. It's pretty easy, but it's free to make an account. So while it's logging in, does anyone have any questions so far? Has that all been straightforward? I mean, this is recorded, so if you're not too sure, we can you can just look over it again. I guess I'll explain it one more time. So here in the MunkaSolver free, you need to put the correct derivation path. So MunkaSolver free, ranges, Hold'em, three-way, and then inside the three-way folder you have the Zenith folders, and inside each of those Zenith folders there's just a bunch of RNG files, sorry. And so this is what's seen by the Monka viewer. Any questions about that? Pretty straightforward. And then the settings.txt, I've uploaded it so you can just download it and put the settings.txt in the same folder as the MunkaViewer.exe or the MunkaSolver free folder. And that will give you the same colors that I'm using. So here, this is the MunkaViewer, and you just click on local, and you'll have all of the preflop sims available. Don't worry about these, this is just the zips. And then you can just click enter, right? And that way you get the mix strategy. And this is using the same colors that I've got up. So you can open it up and see what's going on, right? And then you can, say for example, look at the different sort of counter strategies, and the different colors are here. So if you're not sure what color it was, you can just look on the left hand side and see what the color means. Yeah, pretty straightforward. Any questions about that? Alright, I'm just going to assume no questions. Okay. Yeah, so I'll just have let you guys, when you get access to it, to you just go through the sims in your own time. What else is there? In early access, there's this file here. Right, and so there's going to be a bunch of videos that will be put up here, and then the ETA for further sims that are going to be put into the early access folder. Alright. So if that's clear enough for everyone. So any questions, any bits that you're confused about? Is that straightforward enough that you can follow it?
Sorry, Thomas, the percentages there are by the colors. I'm sure you've probably gone through this, but what are they reflecting again? Like the 300%, the 250%, 200%?
Yeah, so those are the raise sizes as a percentage of the pot.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right, any other questions? Yeah, these are the raise sizes. I mean, if you want to look at the exact amount without having to get your calculator out and do it yourself, you can just look at the next one up, and so there it says fold as minus 11.5 BB. So this last raise size was to 11.5, right? And similarly here, that 60% represents a 2.5 BB. because it's folding out the 2.5 big blinds that the button put in. And like you can do that here. So if I go here and then like min 14.5 is 200%. Yeah, same sort of deal. All right, now let's have a quick look at GTO Plus. And sort of the pretty standardish way to set this up and use it. So I'm probably teaching you guys how to suck eggs at this stage, but basically with GTO Plus, depending on what version you've got here, this is 1.1.7. But there's the newer versions, and they get extra features. But yeah, we'll just go through the basics. So here on the left-hand side, you've got the basically the settings. Range 1 is for the out position player, and range 2 is for the in position player. So don't get that confused. Otherwise, you'll end up running a sim with the ranges like for the opposite players, which I have done on multiple occasions. So yeah, don't mix that up. Range 1 out of position, range 2 in position. And so if you want, you can go on the Zenith website and put in your own ranges, and copy all of that. We can use your own ranges. So basically, just click whatever, right, and that does it. Or you can just drag your mouse around, and that does it as well. If you want to change the weighting on something, you just go to the weighting, and then you go, like for example 75, and then so all these combos will be 75% weight, and you can have like as many different weights as you want, really, right? So these are all 15 and these are all 75, right? And then for like here player 2, I'll just have this stuff as 100, and then I want this to be 50, right? This 50, this is 100. Okay, so once you've chosen the ranges for the out position player and the in position player, you can select a board, right? And if you just want to run it from the flop, you just select the flop. If you want to run it from the turn, you just select the fourth card for the turn. And if you want to run it from the river, you just select the last card for the river. But yeah, let's just say this is the flop. We've got Queen 7-3, and then we or you can click random if you just want to look at different flops. We can build the tree. Okay, so here on the left hand side, you have the setup for the stack to pot ratio. So you can use either one chip as one big blind, or 10 chips as one big blind, or something like that. It doesn't really matter. That the solve will still will run it to as many decimal places as needed. In a lot of the Zenith sims I've just got it as one chip as one big blind, so you can just do that. So let's say there's 6 big blinds in the middle, and then the effective stack is 97, meaning that it started off at 100 big blinds, and then someone opened a 3, and then someone called, and so the 3 big blinds from the starting stack is now in the pot in the middle. In terms of the rate, you just set the rate to whatever is appropriate for the games that you're looking at. In the Zenith Sims, I've just run it as 5% capped at one chip. Here, one chip is one big blind, so 5% capped at one big blind, right? And that'll be 5% capped at one is somewhere between like 200L and 500L. So it's pretty good for a lot of the games that people play. And then once you've done that, you've got the setup. You can look at the right hand side. Almost never uses basic tree. It's just pretty shit, right? Why would you want to? Yeah, it's just not good. So basically, if you use basic, it just gives you the geometric bet sizes, which is not really useful. So we're going to go straight to advanced, right? And so for advanced, this gives you all the bells and whistles that you want. And we can like open up all of these to give custom bet sizes to both the out position player and in position player. Right. Now, in terms of the default bet size, this isn't super important if you're giving bet sizes on to everyone specifically where you want them. But basically, if you leave one of these boxes blank, it'll use this number here. So that's what that means. So right now, because all these boxes are blank, it's all just 75%. Now, with the 2 bets left, get the money in smoothly, just don't use that because it'll just mess everything up. So I would strongly discourage you from ever using this 2 bets left, get the money in smoothly, unless you're really strapped for RAM. Which, if you're strapped for RAM, just build a bigger computer, because it's probably better just to get the more accurate sim. So don't use that last one.
Thomas, what would with only 2 bets left get the money in smoothly mean?
Yeah, it'll mess things up. If there's only 2 bets left, instead of using the bet size that you put in, it'll use the default bet size. So say, for example, your default bet was 100. 2 bets left would mean, in terms of default bet, would be 4 times a pot. So if the stacks are less than 4 times a pot, it'll use a geometric bet size only and ignore whatever you've put in here. So
wait, that's
yeah. So don't use this, otherwise it'll mess up all your sims.
okay.
Now this don't donk one. Yeah, don't use that. Because that'll turn off donking for the average player for all 3 streets, so you don't need to use that. If you want to just avoid donking on the flop, then you can just use your custom settings for the flop, and then click don't donk here. So that'll stop donking on the flop, but still allow donking on the turn of the river. So there's definitely some situations where you want that. But this one up here will just turn off donking for all 3 streets for the out position player, which is usually pretty bad in terms of the accuracy of your sims. Right, now add the all in. So there's a difference between add all in and go all in. So add all in means that when the stack size is less than this number, it'll add an additional all in bet size. But if it's go all in, if you click it to go all in, that means that if it's less than this number, it'll only use an all in size. So I never use the go all in, just use the add all in, and I usually set this to the max, which is 1000. So that'll just add all ins when the stack pot ratio gets less than 10. And in terms of the default bet, you can just leave it at 75, or you can set it to whatever. Depending on how big your tree is, you might want to have it at a specific number. But if you're going to populate all of these boxes with specific bet sizes that you want, and multiple bet sizes, then this will only really apply to the empty boxes, which might not even be used if you populated your boxes by itself. Right. So let's say, for example, I wanted to avoid the out position player from donking. So I'm just going to click that. So that stops the out position player from donking. So this first bet doesn't really matter. Right, I can put whatever in here, it's just never going to be used because I've stopped it from donking the flop. Right. And now let's say I want the in position player. Now I can look at the bet. So this is the first bet after the out position player is checked. So let's say I want to have a couple different bet sizes. I want to have a 50% bet size, and I want a 100% bet size. Right. So you can just either type in 50, 100, and that'll do it. You don't have to type in the percentages or anything like that. Okay. So I have the 2 bet sizes now, and so in this part of the tree it'll give me 2 bet sizes. Right, but let's say I also want to have a couple different check raises. I want to have, say, 100%, and then I want to have 200%. Right, I just write like that. Or if I really wanted to, I can even do something like like 4x. And so this 4x number, this basically means that whatever bet was given here, the raise will be 4 times that bet. I don't usually use them, but you can if you wanted to. All right, and now, so since there's no donking, there's never going to be a 1 bet for the opposition player, or a 3 bet or a 5 bet, so I don't really have to worry about that. And so because there's no donking, I don't have to worry about these. So I just have to populate the right hand side of this block. So let's just say I just want the 3 bet and the 4 bet to be 50-100, and the check raise size of 100-200. Okay, so the bet 50-100, right? The check raise 100-200. I 3 bet 50-100, and then 4 bet 50-100. And now if I leave these boxes blank, it'll just use 75 up here, right? Okay, so that's the flop, and now we can move on to the turn, right? Now, because there's donking, I definitely want to have some donking capability, right? Now, in depending on the version of GTO Plus you use, you can have the special inputs P, D, and C. P is for probe, meaning that if it goes check check, then the bet size is different. D is for donk, so you called and then you donk into them. And then C bet is so last bet was here, so for example for a check raise and then continuation bet. So for this first bet, and that's the only one that's special, you can have the 3 different types of inputs, right? So say for example I want 2 probe sizes. I want 100 probe and 200 probe, right? I just write like that. And then the donks, let's say I want a 25 donk and a 50 donk, I just write it like that. Okay. And now if I don't leave, if I leave the C bet not chosen, it'll use the default bet size at the top, right? So I'll have to choose the C bet size. So let's go with 50C and 100C. Okay, and so now these 6 inputs give me 2 inputs each, depending on whether it's a probe, a donk, or a C bet. If I don't care about the distinction, you can just use the same format up here, and it will use that same format for all 3. Now, once I've done that, let's say for example I want, if it checks, then I'm going to go 50. Well, a good thing in this is that you don't have to even press the commas, you just press space instead. 100, 200, and then it'll just set like that, right? And then let's just use 50, 100 for the remainder. Right, who cares about 5 bet and 6 bet because they're never going to happen. Right, and let's say I want to use the same settings for the turn for the river. So just copy and paste that there. So boom. If you don't want to read it, you can just open up like a text file and then like copy this into the text file just to make sure that you've got the right settings for yourself. Right, and just use the same settings from the previous street. So copy paste, copy paste. So basically what this means, I've got the 3 different options for the probe, the donk and the C bet, and then in position we'll bet these 3 sizes, and then the check raises 50, 100, and then the 3 bet, 4 bet, 5 bet, etc. They're all going to be 50, 100 as well. So once I'm happy with this tree, right, it'll tell me how much memory I need. So depending on your computer's RAM, just make sure it's less than the total amount of RAM that your computer has. The good thing about GTO Plus is that it'll actually compress the RAM that it's using to about half. So you can actually use trees roughly double the amount of RAM that you have. Of course, when you do that, you might run into stability issues and your computer might crash. So yeah, just use it with some caution, right? I wouldn't be running any sort of critical processes in the background while you're also trying to run your sim at the same time, because your computer might crash. But assuming that that's all good, you just click build tree, and that builds the tree. And now at the top you can just run through and then just make sure that you got the bet sizes that you wanted, right? Now here you got to watch out, because if you just go to the turn, it'll immediately start solving for you. So that's not nice. But if you wanted to, you can go navigate tree and then zoom in and then have a closer look about what's going on. So let's just say it goes check, and then you just click at the turn. You see it's immediately solved it. So you just stop that. So let's just say that you built the tree, you've gone through all your settings, you double checked everything, you're happy. You just click run solver. Okay. Now there's a few different ways to do it. So the basic one is just runs this thing just once, and that's fine. The different storage options you've got. So extensive storage just means that you've stored the entire tree as well as the turn in the river. Basic storage, it just stores the flop with no information about the turns. And the medium storage is that it stores the flop and some information about the turns, but not everything about the turns. Medium storage is what I recommend, unless you've got either medium or extensive is pretty good. Medium basically just means that it'll save the flop, but if you want to look at the turn, you have to resolve the turn. Usually that's pretty quick, so you can often get away with just doing it like that. Right. The target DEV, you just click one of these three settings, depending on how close to equilibrium for that tree you want to solve it down to. Often for single raise pots, 0.5 is okay. For 3-bet pots and 4-bet pots, you want to consider using one of these smaller ones. So the advanced setting is it's the quote-unquote scripting options for the like the other kind of solvers that you might use. Right, so in the advanced settings, you just activate database mode. And here's the pretty good one. You can actually add different flops. So for these two ranges and this tree, you can add a bunch of different flops. So let's say I wanted to run this set of ranges on this tree for 50 different flops. I just click this, type 50, and boom, it adds 50 different random flops. Right, and then if I click process database, it'll just run through and process each flop after the last one solved. Or if I wanted to add a specific flop in, right, you can just type the flop and then click add specific flop, and then it adds that in there. Right. On the other hand, if you wanted to, for this flop, I want to have a look at how this flop on this board, these ranges on this board, how the results would change if you change the tree, right? Then what you can do is click add current tree, and then you can go back, rebuild your tree, do something different, and then go back into the advanced setting and then add that new tree, right? And so you can run through a bunch of different trees, or you can even change the flop and whatever, and then click add current tree, and it will do that. You can also just give it a name. So let's say like tree 1, right? So here it's tree 1, and this is this tree on this flop, right? So what else is there? So let's say I wanted to add 50 random flops, right? I can export those flops to a certain file and import from a different file. So let's say I wanted to use the same set of flops across. And this is just a text file with the flops, one flop for each line, and you can go in and edit that text file if you wanted to. But let's say I just want to have a look at 5 random flops. I do that, and now I just click Process Database, and then it's going to go through these 5 random flops. I wanted, and it's going to save it in between. So you can go to while running, just go file and save as whatever. Say you're running it for a week, which I can run time. I'll go and just save it. It'll do just fine. Then once it's all saved, you can look through it and then solutions. Yeah, so that's all I wanted to show you. That's basically what I do. Any questions about all of that? I haven't really gone to node locking and all that, but it's a bit more advanced. But any questions about all that so far?
What's the change all flops to?
Yeah, this has just changed all the flops to a certain flop. That's more if you have different trees.
Oh, okay. All right. I have a question regarding the tree building. On the, for the out of position, like I have GTO Plus, but I've never used the, the continuation, the donk and the probe, like the P, the D, and the C. So if the flop goes like bet call, then the solver won't use the probe bets. Is that right? That if it goes check check, then it will use the probe bets if it wants to bet.
Yeah. So if you do it this way, you should only do it this way, right? So this basically means that if it goes check check, it'll only use these two, right? If it goes bet call or check raise call, it'll only use these two, and if it goes check bet call, it'll only use these two, right? So,
okay.
So don't add an extra size because that won't work. Don't do this. Because this 500 won't be used properly. It just won't be used.
So is it good to label them whenever you're doing trees, to just put the labels on them?
Yeah, well, this only works on the turn of the river for the first bet of the opposition player, but basically, like, just do that.
So if the imposition isn't leading on the flop, if that's donking's turned off,
the opposition,
then the out of position, then if it goes check check, does that use the C? Is that looked at as a delayed continuation bet, or is that
GTO Plus doesn't know what happened pre-flop, so it's not
okay. All right, okay, I understand now.
So you can't use this format for this one because it doesn't know what happened pre-flop.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's good.
Right.
You haven't upgraded and played against the solution yet?
No, I haven't had time. Yeah. So any questions about that? Any questions about the Monka?
Yeah, I have actually one quick other question. When I'm running sims using the Zenith ranges, I'll put them in like the Aqualab, and and do the weightings and all that. So then when I just cut and paste them into GTO Plus, when I'm doing the solves, and I keep them in the Aqualab. Is there a way with the Monk Reviewer Sims to like take a range, like just kind of cut and paste the range in that format and put it in GTO Plus?
Yeah, I don't think there's a way to do it with Monka Viewer. Um,
You know what I mean, though, right?
all of the information is stored inside the RNG folders. I know there is some options commercially available to extract this in like a readable format, because otherwise it just yeah.
Well, I'm manually putting them in Aqualab from the Zenith site, so it'll just be a case of manually putting them straight from the viewer into GTO Plus or into an equity thing like Aqualab. It'd be the same thing.
Yeah, there's no way to extract data from this and do it. You can do it manually. Like if you just open these up, it's just, if you open up with like Notepad, right? It's just all the possible hands and then the weightings, which is it's not particularly useful. Because it doesn't really tell you exactly what's going on. I mean, yeah, it says 40, 0, 40, 0, 40, 100, 5, 5, 40, 0, 51. Right, it doesn't really tell you what's going on, but like if you can read it, it's just basically saying it's open to 40, and then everyone folds. And like down here is like open to 40. And then like you get 3-bet, and then honestly it's difficult for me to read. I can't really wrap my head around it. But basically there are some commercially available like things on the internet for you to be able to like extract that into the ranges, but you can't do it natively in Monka Viewer, unfortunately.
Does it interact with Monk or Solver? Like, can it connect that way?
Yeah, Monka Solver can't look at it doesn't look at the ranges. It creates the ranges.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't look at them. Any other questions?
Oh, sorry if you've covered this, but how do you get the colors happening in Monka Viewer like that? Mine are just
So
light brown, so I can't see. I was curious about the range splitting pre-flop, the different sizing.
Yeah. So just you can. So first of all, update your Monka Viewer to a more recent one, because the older ones didn't have it. So if you had Monka Viewer for a while, then you have to update it. And then you just make a file called settings.txt.
Yeah.
And then for each spot, you just go that spot, and then you go space equals space, and then the RGB code for it. So in the All Access folder, I've uploaded my settings.txt, so you can use the same color scheme to have a look at it all.
In the Google folder?
Yeah, in the Google folder, I just uploaded my settings.txt, so you can use the same one that I'm using currently.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, and you just have to download that and then put it in the same folder that Monka Viewer is in, so Monka Viewer can read it.
All right.
And of course, if you don't like the color scheme that I'm using, you can go into the settings yourself and then change the colors to something more pleasant on the eyes. I know some of these are a bit standoffish, maybe. Yeah. So that's kind of the bulk of what I wanted to show you. I know some of it might have been stuff that you might have knew already. Maybe some of it you just review about stuff that you didn't know about, and you can use it now. So yeah, any last minute questions?
I'm good. Thanks, Thomas.
Great. All right, I'll stop the recording now. So anyone who's watching the recording at home, if you've got any questions, you can just send me a message.